Hi everyone, welcome back to the London Football Show. Been a while since we've done a podcast. We've had an international break, fixtures before, and now we're back for Premier League action. So, before it's time for another podcast. We'll start with Man United. Obviously, good form in the league, but I know Razamfan, I know he's not too happy about Champions League in midweek. So we can start with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. It's not good enough. Um, I did mention it right at the start of the season. Now, as soon as you go into Champions League, it's the Champions League. We might all have our opinions about these clubs that are finishing in other leagues, like the Turkish leagues, Danish leagues, and whatever. But when it comes to Champions League, they will try 10 times harder, and that was proven against us. I mean, people underestimated Copenhagen. Galatasaray, maybe they might have thought, okay, they might get a chance purely based on the signings they're making. But these are teams on paper, in my opinion, we should be beating confidently, regardless of the form, the outcome. Coming into this season, when I saw that draw, I was confident second place and even competing for Bayern prior to when they bought Harry Kane. But I mean, it's not good enough. I mean, it's point blank. I mean, we've only won one out of our 5 games. We're now completely reliant on beating Bayern because I have no faith that a draw is enough. I haven't done the maths quite correctly, but I don't know if we will go through. Even if we was to get a point or a win, and worst case scenario, Galatasaray or Copenhagen was to win, I think. Actually, no, sorry, my bad. Because both teams drew, we have to win, regardless of the outcome of the other 2 games. And that's just not the position we wanted to be in going into game week 6 of the Champions League, knowing we've got to play Chelsea in the midweek, knowing we've got games like Liverpool coming up, Villa, Boxing Day. It's looking a bit tight. It's not good enough again. I can't really say too much like why is it different from the Prem to the Champions League. Again, the only thing I think of is teams like to turn up a bit more harder in the Champions League compared to Prem. I guess you could say the caliber, the quality is a bit higher or not. The intensity is much different and higher. I mean, fair play to Galatasaray. I was watching the game. I could not hear any United fans until the goals were coming in. Literally, there was a stage at a game where the ref had to tell the Galatasaray ultras to quieten down because he couldn't hear his own earpiece. That's how loud it was. I don't think for a long time, at least on the TV, I've seen such a vibrant atmosphere witnessed.
Fair enough. And then what about your league form? Because your league form, you're doing quite well.
League form is, I expect it though. I mean, given the games we've been facing, I mean, I expect wins. I mean, I said it. After the Man City defeat or prior to that, I looked at the run of form we had. There was no excuses for us not to get wins, and some of them they weren't even convincing. When we look at it, they were all. I mean, I think Fulham was 1-0, Sheffield United we only won 2-1, Burnley 1-0. These are teams that are somewhat in relegation battling form, and yet we can't beat them by more than one goal difference. And if you look at the players that are scoring, Dallo scored a winner. I believe it was over. I know Bruno scored the winner, but Fernandez, I mean Evans set him up for the assist. It's kind of like players
Lindelof,
you don't
Luton, innit?
expect to turning up. And whilst that's great, but I would like to see my number nines, Martial, Højlund, Rashford, who's been absent this whole season, to be turning up, and they're not. And it's quite concerning that it's players that you don't expect, like your DMs and your centre backs, like McTominay. I'm sorry, but how is he one of our top scorers as a number 6 or number 8? It's unbelievable.
And what about Anana? Like, what happens with him? Is it
Oh,
time for him to be dropped, or like no, you can't drop him because it's Ten Hag signing?
you definitely can drop him. I
Mm.
mean, I don't
But
know.
then who's your number two? Who's your number two?
It's not like Tom Heaton. No, there's some Turkish guy in it.
Yeah,
They got
it's
some
some
Turkish
Turkish
guy,
guy
like
that
25-year-old or
looked
something
up
like that.
to, Van der Sar
I've never
something,
seen
and
him.
there's also Tom Heaton as well. But it's not looking good. I mean, me personally, I was very skeptical of Onana coming in. I didn't think it would be better than De Gea, but even De Gea, when he made some howlers, I don't think he was making it on a consistent basis. Onana has let us down in 3 Champions League games, and fans forgave him because of the penalty save against Copenhagen. And even then, I'll be honest, if I'm going to be very critical, that was a poor penalty. He didn't, the Copenhagen player didn't really, put his foot through it. He wasn't very convincing. It wasn't really in the corner. There was no reason for Onana not to get to it. And if you look at the game just that's went, what was he doing for the third for the third goal for the equalizer against Seat? Oh, sorry, the second goal.
Oh yeah, that was crazy, man.
I mean, I understand. it's hard. Like, don't get me twisted. I don't think I can ever play professional football, but regardless whether you thought Martial was going to head the ball to clear it out, you can't slip through your feet. I'm sorry, that is just unacceptable. And I'm not going to make it personal, but we literally see it. A Chelsea reject score twice on our heads, and it was two poor free kicks as well. And whether you can argue he didn't set up the wall properly, whether the Galatasaray players on the left of the wall were blocking his vision, I don't know. But I'm not here to make excuses. The simple reason is we've been poor in Champions League, and it's shown. And I'm not gonna say I personally it's gonna hurt me, but I feel like we deserve what's coming to us. I think I haven't touched too much on the manager, but Ten Hag, he's also come about this wrong as well. Some of the substitutions, the tactics he's been doing, it doesn't seem to be playing out well. You mean you've got Højlund, fair enough, he's not in the greatest form in the Premier League, but Champions League he's your a joint top scorer, and you bring him off in the 60th minute for Martial, who's been a reject for United for the past 3-4 seasons. It doesn't make sense. Some of these substitutions does not make sense. I remember against Copenhagen, we're losing, and you take off Højlund and you bring on Mason Mount. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand what his philosophy is. I don't understand where he's trying to go with it, and it's going to be concerning. Of course, I say all of this. I don't want to just make it to the round of 16 and just get knocked out. Of course not. But in terms of the bigger scale, when you not just with Ten Hag, but if you just look at United in general in previous Champions League competitions, we haven't made it past the quarterfinal since 2018-19, and we've only made the quarterfinal once in the last decade. That's poor. That's completely poor. I'm not saying there's a prize for making it past the quarterfinal, but there should be some consistency. Of course, you should always go to a competition and win it. There's 4 competitions if you make it top 4. The Prem, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Champions League. You've got all the other cups if you win them. But the bare minimum is you need to go into it winning it. Otherwise, what's the point of it competing? It's not just to get minutes in or to train, get a warm up. It's nothing like that. You need to go into each competition with the mentality of winning it, regardless of whether you're a big club or a small club. We've seen teams do it before. Look at Chelsea, 2021. No one thought they were going to do it. Sacked Lampard halfway through the season. Man City were the favourites. They still went out and did it. Still did it. So why can't we? So for me, there's no excuses. It's just, I feel like it's a mentality thing. Again, I can go onto the board and talk about Glazers. There is a bigger picture, but right now, what's happening on the pitch, at least in those specific games, that's all within the team and Ten Hag.
James, anything to say on United?
No, just a few things. I think you're spot on with Sanford, but I'll add a couple of things because I just think up until that Wednesday night game, if it was the Wednesday night game against Galatasaray, I think Man United were a surprise package. I think a lot of people didn't realise how high up they were in the Premier League. There was a stat going around that I think they won 4 or 5 out of their last 6 games or something. And the amount of criticism that Man United have had to pick up over the last few weeks is surprising that they're getting them results. But like you say, they can be deemed against teams that aren't as strong as others. There may be some lucky late goals. My concern would be in terms of the European football is that you could end up with nothing. You could end up finish bottom of the group and don't even get in the Europa League. I mean, that's how bad it could be, because I think you need to beat Bayern Munich and you need a draw in the other game or something just to qualify or something like that. But if results go against you, if you lose and one of the other teams wins, I think you finish 4th and you don't even get Europa League. So I'd be really concerned about that. But the key word for me, for Man United, is like a couple of clubs really, when you're looking at teams like Man United who are meant to be top 4 consistent, semi-finals, finals consistent. That's what they're known as over the last, 10, 20 odd years with Ferguson. And that's what's missing. It's that consistency. You can't do it. I don't know what it is. You can't do it. And your goalkeeper's not performed how everyone expected. You've hit the nail on the head with McTominay being like one of your top goal scorers. What's happened to him? We don't know, but I think it's the consistency. There's something wrong there. And they've still not got their hands on it, but yet they're still, 6 in the table, 6 in the Premier League. If they win at the weekend against Newcastle, they could go 5th. You know what I mean? It's still like, competitive and still could get that top 4. But I think the next few games are going to be crucial for Man United and will set their season up for the beginning of January, I think. You could be out of Europe and you could be either top 4 or you could be as low as 8th or 9th in the Premier League by the time we start January. So key times ahead for Man United, I think. Key times ahead. But I think you're away to Newcastle this weekend? That's a toughie. That's my view, Sion.
Sticking with you, West Ham qualified for the Europa League knockout stages and still doing well in the Prem.
One of the best records in European football in the last few seasons, up there with the likes of Real Madrid, winning all these games. I think we've won so many games in Europa League and the Europa Conference the last 2 or 3 seasons. On paper, we're one of the best teams in Europe at the moment. But we're lucky. We're lucky. Thursday night was lucky. It was an atrocious game. But as you do, we want to try and win the league, the group stage. So we haven't got to play in February. We go straight to the March knockouts. But we've guaranteed second. But it's all to play for in the final game on the 14th of December. Because it's us and the other team who are top. With us, we're only top on goal difference, I think. So it's whoever wins that will go top and play in March. Whoever loses it will go and play in a knockout stage in February with those that drop down from the Champions League. So it'd be interesting. But I think, again, league form's all right. We had 2 late goals against Burnley last weekend, and they've been 1 down, and Burnley thought they were going to get their first Premier League winning at home. And I think, yet again, a man I want to talk about today, who I think has been outstanding for us. And I said it at the start of the season, and people wanted to get rid of him because he was having a poor season. I don't think he was having a poor season. It was just that he was playing alongside someone that was dominating the midfield, so he had to sit back all the time. But now that we've finally got rid of that player and he's gone to some team called Arsenal, Thomas Souček has been outstanding for us. He's coming up with the goals, late goals as well, scored the late winner against Burnley, scored the late winner on Thursday night. But not only that, he's pushing forward more. And he's becoming a bit of a nuisance when we're getting these crosses in from Kudas, coming, and Paqueta can, find a good ball in. But Souček's been outstanding, and he gets a lot of criticism last season. But this season, I think West Ham fans have seen the good in him, and he's playing like he did when he first signed for us, 3 or 4 seasons ago. So he's pretty good. We gave the youngster on Thursday night, Divine Mbama, a chance on Thursday night. He started. He got substituted. I think it was about the 65th, 70th minute. Didn't really get many chances, but again, he came off the bench against Burnley last weekend. And, it went down as an own goal, but he created it by being just present to get the equaliser. But it was an own goal, but him not being there may not have caused it. So hopefully he'll get more time. I'm just looking out. I want to mention a player that I'm only mentioning this in case there's anyone that watches this podcast who knows someone in football who could get him transferred out of us, please. But we're spending far too money on Danny Ings. I don't know what he does. I honestly don't know what he does. And, I'm not being funny. I very rarely criticise players, but for what I've heard, he's on a week. Please, come on, someone watching this, please. Let me know. Get in touch. I'll drive him to your club if you want. But we've got to get rid of him in January, surely. And with 2 London derbies coming up in concession with Palace on Sunday and Spurs next Thursday, big times for West Ham. But we're happy where we are. I think there was a bit of a wobble, but I think we've maintained it, and we're 9th in the table, 20 points, 13 games, 2 points behind Brighton, 3 points behind Newcastle, and everyone raves about how good Newcastle and Brighton are. So start talking about West Ham, because I believe it or not, a little fact for you as well, even what happens this weekend, they're still 4 points clear of Chelsea, so Chelsea can't even overtake us. That's good news, isn't it? Oh.
All right. I was gonna say with Souček as well. He scored the winner against Forest as well, isn't it? That 3-2, was that him as well?
Yeah.
The late winner, was that him? Oh,
Yeah,
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 he's scored a
yeah.
lot of late winners. Right, us Newcastle, our game away at Newcastle, absolute disgrace last week. For me, it's I don't even know which one to be more cross that. The fact we went 3-1 down, or Reece James as the captain getting sent off for doing nothing. If you're gonna get sent off, you better be worth it. If you're 1-0 up in a cup final and oh yeah, someone's through on goal and you take them out, fine, and then you just have to defend the rest, the rest of the game. I'll be fair enough. I can understand that, but I can't forgive what he's done last week as the captain, especially. He's meant to be the leader, so it just shows the lack of discipline we got in this squad. I've seen Jackson pick up 5 yellow cards, get suspended. The manager that's meant to be setting the example, he was out for the game because of yellow card accumulation as well. So, manager, players, I don't know if it's the youth in this team, because I know we lack experience in this team in terms of age profile as well. But Newcastle last week, the way we just capitulated, and the fact Silva as well. Silva, he gave the ball away less than a minute after we concede, and then they go and make it 3-1. So I'm like, if Silva's gonna make those mistakes, then I don't know who I can bank on in this team in terms of being consistent game in, game out. Because all the work we did before the international break, Spurs, Man City, that's all undone now because we got battered away at Newcastle and like back to square one. We're not moving up the table. Every week we're just 10th, 11th, no matter what we do. And as James already said, we'll still be 10th anyways this by the end of this weekend. So we're not going anywhere in the table. Like I know people have started to give us a bit of plaudits in the last few weeks, prior to the Newcastle game, but we're still not going anywhere in terms of the table. So yeah, I don't know what to say. I know Nkunku's coming back soon. He's like that's my only shining light because he hasn't obviously made his Prem debut for us yet, in the attack. But even if he was there against Newcastle, he's not a centre back. He's not stopping those goals going in. Cucurella's not stepping out in time, playing Isak on side. All these schoolboy errors from us multiple times in the same game, and it's costing us goals. So yeah, no, vast improvement needed from us moving forward to start because we have to start climbing this table. Because remember, I've already said we asked our objectives for this season. We failed already because like we're not getting top four because we're like miles behind like fourth right now. I don't even know. I think 8 points behind United and they're sixth. So and I don't know how many points they are off top four. But yeah, we're nowhere near. We're in the wilderness right now. So yes, tough times ahead for us. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
No, I just think it's a big game for you this weekend. You've got Brighton at home.
Yep.
If you lose to that, if you lose to that, Brighton will go 9 points clear of you.
Yeah.
If they beat you, they're 9 points clear of you. So I don't think your points are very good. I would like Man United ahead. Do you know what I mean? So I think you've got to win. You've got to win. You're at home. You've got to win today. Don't know how you do it, but you've got to beat Brighton because then you close the gap on West Ham and you'll close the gap to 3 points on Brighton. And then if Man United, Newcastle draw, you're then 4 points. But if you lose today, you could potentially be 9, 10 points behind the likes of Brighton, Newcastle, Man United. You know, West Ham win, you'll be 9 points behind them. But anyway,
right. We'll move on to the score predictions now. So obviously we're gonna predict all the 10 games for those viewing the podcast, watching to all the episodes. We have our score predictions, which we predict all the games, and then we get prize at the end of the season. So I'll start. We'll go one game at a time. Me first, and then Razanthan second this week, and then your third. So I'll start Arsenal Wolves. I've gone 3-0 Arsenal. 3-0 Arsenal win. Go on, Razanthan, you're second this week.
I've also gone 3-0 Arsenal. Whitewash.
And James?
3-1 Arsenal.
3-1 Arsenal. Brentford Luton, I've gone 2-0 Brentford.
Brentford Luton, I've gone 2-1 to Brentford.
Yeah, I went 2-0 Brentford Luton.
Okay, Burnley Sheffield United, I've gone 2-1 Burnley.
Oh. I've gone 1-0 Sheffield United. I don't think Burnley have the conviction.
I've gone Burnley 3, Sheffield United 1.
Okay, Nottingham Forest Everton, I've gone 2-1 Forest.
I've gone 2-0 Forest. I think Everton they've lost their heads. I think they capitulated against us last weekend. I think the Garnacho overhead goal also kind of took away the limelight from Everton's 10-point deduction. I mean, that's all I was seeing everywhere. It was like that news also kind of just got reduced, and then everyone was just talking about Garnacho, the Wayne Rooney head free kick, overhead kick. It just kind of
and all that.
It took it all away. So I think they might be angry, but whether the players themselves are angry and want something out of this, I'm not too sure.
James?
I've gone Forest 2, Everton 2.
Okay, Newcastle, Man United, I've gone 3-1 Newcastle.
Same here, 3-1 Newcastle. Don't expect anything less from United.
I've gone classic game of football, 3-2 Newcastle.
3-2. Bournemouth, Aston Villa. Oh, okay. Bournemouth, Aston Villa, I've gone Bournemouth 1, Villa 2.
Okay. I've gone Bournemouth 1, Villa 3.
Oh, same here. Bournemouth 1, Villa 3.
Chelsea, Brighton, I've gone 1-1.
Oh, sitting on the fence, for God's sake.
I'm
You
here
need
for
a
points.
win, Sion. You need a win.
Listen, for the viewers,
You
right? For
need
the
a
viewers
win.
watching, yeah. For the viewers watching, you never get blinded by it being your team. There's money
You
on the line for
need
the
a
viewers.
win.
For the
Your
viewers that
team's
are
at
watching, I'm here for my money. I'm here for my money, so I predict what I think will happen. Not what I want to
okay.
happen. I
Oh,
predict what I
okay.
think will happen.
Okay.
Go on,
Fair enough.
go on,
Fair
Ross.
enough. Fair enough.
I've also gone for a draw, but I've gone for a 2-2 thriller. I think both teams are slightly in the same boat. They're not the team. I think Brighton, they're slightly below what they should be this season compared to last season with the addition of Europa League. I think Chelsea, they were in somewhat great form prior to the Newcastle game. Hopefully they can recover that. And they're at home, so I do expect them to put up a fight at least.
Yeah, there's two factors there. I think Southampton's just hit them as well. Chelsea, for me, Chelsea at home. Brighton played in Europe on Thursday night, so I've gone Chelsea 3, Brighton 1. 3-1 at Chelsea.
Liverpool, Fulham, 4-0 Liverpool.
You know what? I was going to go 4-0, but I had to add a goal for Fulham so that the VAR corruption comes through for them. So 4-1 Liverpool.
And I've written mine down, and mine's 4-1 for that same bloody reason. Because I could see Fulham scored a VAR goal. So 4-1 Liverpool.
West Ham 2, Palace 1.
Oh, hang on. Let me just go and sit on the fence, and then I'll give you mine, yeah?
West
Go
Ham
on,
2,
Sanford.
Palace 1.
What you gone, Sion?
West Ham 2, Palace 1.
I've gone West Ham 1, Palace 1, purely because West Ham played on the weekend. Palace, they might have had a bit of rest. Not expecting too much from that game, but could see it going West Ham. But for the prediction, I'm going to go safe and go 1-1.
Okay. Well, I've just fallen off the fence. West Ham 3, Palace 1.
The 5-pointer, Man City Spurs 4-1. Man City.
I've gone 4-0. I don't think Spurs.
Oh! But I've gone 4-2.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't know where
That's
I see
the
the
Spurs.
goals coming from,
Spurs.
especially away.
My one goal for Spurs is the Son, innit? Son loves the goal against Man City. I just consolation
4-2
at the end.
Spurs.
Oh, 4-2 Spurs. Well, yep,
No, I'm joking. 4-2 City. 4-2 City.
Oh lol, I didn't even clock. I didn't even clock you were saying that.
Yeah. I'm going 4-2 City. 4-2 City.
Okay, well, that's our score predictions for the score predictions table wrapped up. Is there anything else anyone wants to add before we wrap up?
Do you want to touch on VAR?
Yeah, what the
I think
Fulham
we
Wolves
need
thing?
to.
Oh, we need to. I think VAR just generally it's been
In general, it's a disgrace,
I
man.
mean,
Oh.
personally watching the Fulham game, I mean, I know between Datsun and Mr. Datsun and Sion, there was a lot on the line going into that game. But I think VAR, I can't explain. I can't explain it. I don't know who to blame or where to put the blame on. I think Carragher did make a good point, I think, in the post game. What is a clear and obvious foul? Are the officials trained to understand that this is clear and obvious and this isn't? Is it a black and white or is it a gray area? Because it seems like they pick and choose. It's like a pick and mix bag from sweets or something. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll pick a Haribo Star Mix, but not the Skittles. When do we choose what is right and wrong? And I'm sorry, but for me watching the game, even before it went to VAR, I could see that was clearly not a penalty. That was a dive. Clear. For the third one. For the second one, you can argue this contact. But the third one, the second one in the last minute, there was no reason. And it's not just even the Prem. I mean, from what we've seen, it seems to be this inconsistency of VAR is going throughout. I mean, in Champions League, I'll just quickly go off on a tangent, come back. It's disgraceful what happened to Newcastle.
Yeah.
Neutral.
Oh,
That
yeah.
never happened.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
That's so poor. Like Livermento, like comes off his leg, isn't it? And then like, nah, that's insane. Newcastle. I mean, PSG should have lost. I mean, I know they dominated the game, but they didn't score.
Dominated the game,
They needed
but
VAR to
fair
bail
enough.
them out.
But the way they got their goal was not the way they should have got their goal.
Yeah, yeah.
And that result will it's going to be make or break going into the last game week. Now,
Newcastle might get eliminated
potentially
now.
had an advantage in going through.
For me, there's a few things over the last, say, decade and maybe a little bit longer that's changed for football, right? They introduced bringing in the fourth official to show with the board how many minutes were added time, right? You never knew that, yeah? They introduced that, good idea. So the fans knew there'd be 3 minutes added time at half time, 4 minutes at full time, yeah? So you knew. So that was a good idea, right? Then they introduced the watch with the ball over the line. Is it clearly over the line? Is it not? good idea. No problems with that. Referee gets to watch. Okay, there was that incident a couple of seasons ago with at Villa Park,
Aston Villa, Sheffield
Sheffield
United.
United. Yeah, that's a one-off, right? But the overall ball over the line, that works. Then they introduced VAR for offside mainly for offside, and mainly for the reasoning at the Chelsea Arsenal game at Stamford Bridge when the player got mistakenly sent off.
Oh yeah.
So
Chamberlain and Giggs.
it was to sort of support the ref if he got the wrong booking or there was a clear and obvious mistake on something, right? And that's the key. Keep it very simple. What's happened or what's been allowed to happen is the referee association have put too many people on the VAR van, so there's too many opinions. You've got 4 people sitting in a van. You've got the VAR guy, you've got 2 assistants and someone else. There's too many opinions. That's why it takes too long. It started to become, it should be purely and simply offside or not offside. Yeah, or clear and obvious poor decision from the referee that's factually wrong. You know, none of this, oh, did it bob up from his foot to hit his arm? Was his arm out? Was it not? Was that a free kick? Was that a yellow card? Keep it simple and it will work. The reason it's not working is that they've been allowed to be the centrepiece of every single Premier League game now, because you can't celebrate, you can't do anything until VAR have looked at it. It's like Mike Dean when he used to referee. He wanted to be the centrepiece of the show. He wanted to be the showman of the show. And he made himself look like that. Now VAR are doing the same. What they need to do is scrap it at the end of the season and bring it back with 5 simple rules. That's all it's for. Nothing else. Let the referee ref the game of football. And let's just get it sorted. Because it's going to cost people a lot of money. It's going to cost people, and I'm not talking about footballers. I'm not talking about managers. I'm talking about the tea lady that works in the club, the woman who runs whatever. Because they get promoted or relegated, I should say, there's not enough funds. You know, so clubs will be affected. Clubs will be affected. Leicester City went down last season, and I know for a fact that a lot of staff got made redundant because they couldn't afford them, despite the parachute payments, despite everything. Long term, they knew they couldn't survive because they couldn't guarantee coming back up this year. They can't guarantee that. Yes, they're doing well, but Ipswich are catching them in the Championship. But that's what happens. And now they went down, and if Everton had got their 10-point deduction last season, they wouldn't have gone down, Leicester.
Yeah.
They would have stayed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure during last season there was VAR decisions that went against them that was ridiculous. And you watch this weekend, the first thing we'll be talking about after this weekend will not be Man United's, well, I can't pronounce his name even though I'm a commentator, overhead kick. It'll be VAR. It'll be VAR. VAR will take over. But anyway, that's enough of that. Anyway, let's hope Chelsea. Well, Sion, are you getting off the fence yet or not?
1-1. I'm here for business only, man. Business only. When we go to the Etihad, the Emirates, you'll see the predictions there as well. Like second half of the season, Anfield. Yeah. So, I'm here for my money, man. I'm here
enjoy
for my money.
the weekend, people. Enjoy the weekend, people.
Right. Yeah.
Listen
Thanks
to the
everyone for
podcast.
watching. Like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you all again soon.
Take care.